All right, that looks good. That looks real good. That looks real good. That looks real good. All right. Trying out this live streaming thing. I can't sleep, so I figure I'll get up and make a video, just to talk about some stuff. This is not gonna be a technology thing, but I'm just gonna practice speaking to the camera, talk about some things that I've learned and how I've improved, hopefully improved, since I started doing YouTube, and what I want to work on. But this is more practice than anything else, especially with live streaming and using some of this camera stuff. So I have here one light, so just a little. See if I could bring it into frame a little bit. Just this light pointing at me. It's nothing fancy, and that light, that's a real window. It's a road out there, and that light is a nasty spotlight that that's set up not too far outside my window. But you know what? It's an interesting backdrop. This was not intentional, but I like it. It looks pretty cool. And this is the Sony ESC. What do you call it? Sony. Let me see what the name of it again. The Sony. It's a condenser mic. I forgot the exact name of it. Forgot the exact name of it. But it's connected wirelessly to the to an FX30, and I think the audio sounds really good. I'm gonna try to stay as close as possible to it so that the sound doesn't go high and low. I have no other filters on here, and I'm just streaming through OBS. All right. So again, this is just practice. I mean, it's not gonna be a technology thing. I might keep doing this just for more practice. So what I really wanted to get off my chest during this practice is how can I improve speaking to camera? I still teach. I started teaching many years ago. I say many, maybe 15 or so years, or maybe 10 years ago. I don't quite remember, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And I was so shy, I would stand at the back of the class. And I'd get a stool sometimes and sit back there. And my excuse to the students was that I wanted them to focus on what's on the board slash screen and not me. The truth is, I was just shy and anxious and nervous to talk to people. And the same was true when I just started YouTube. So my first videos would be with my face off camera, which is not really necessary to be on camera. A lot of successful people talking, they present your stuff and it's not on camera. Their face is not on camera. But the truth is, I was nervous to put my face on camera. And so I'm trying to get better at that. And so it got me thinking a few, maybe a few weeks ago now, about what it takes to be confident. And it's something that I still struggle with. A part of me knows that I'm good at some things, but the way how I was raised, and this is not a knock on my parents, but just the culture at the time and the environment is that you shouldn't be too you shouldn't be too boastful about what you're good at. So even if you think you're good at something, you should downplay it. Someone gives you a compliment, then you should kind of say, yeah, thank you, but it's not really me, or you kind of don't own up to it, kind of stuff, right? And then so that, in addition to other things, impacted my confidence. So I found it hard and still do find it hard to speak directly to camera, and I almost always feel like an imposter when I'm speaking to a bunch of people. So sometimes I'm overly expressive when it's not necessary because I'm trying to compensate for my lack of confidence. Now, where does confidence come from? I've been thinking about this for a little bit, and I think I have some ideas of how I can improve this. The first thing is I've seen a lot of confident people, and I've watched a lot of people speak confidently. And one of the first things I notice is that whatever they're saying, they believe or they communicate in such a way that it gives the impression that they believe what they have to say is important. And sometimes it's nonsense, but in their minds, they've convinced themselves and or others that they have something important to say, something worth listening to. That's one thing I would struggle with. Would anybody even care to listen to what I have to say? That's one thing. And I try not to make videos unless I think it's something important. Every now and then, I find myself being like a copycat, making a similar type of video. But for the most part, I try not to. So if I turn on a camera and record something and edit it, it's because I think it might help someone or I think it's important. Otherwise, I don't make the video. And so this one is no different. I do believe that this is important. A lot of us struggle with this stuff, and it's not limited to just speaking to the camera. I think we a lot of us struggle with this even in daily lives. So you're walking towards your coworkers, or you're walking towards a stranger to ask a question, or you're going to ask for assistance at a store, or you're walking up to an interested part or someone you're interested in, and you don't know how to speak. You start fumbling over your words. I start fumbling over my words. I don't seem confident. That kind of stuff. And I think a big part of that is the disbelief that what I have to say is even worth listening to. How do I fix that? I think, and I always said this to my daughter, in order to seem interesting to others, you have to be interested in a bunch of things, of which I am. So I think that's one thing. The other way I think I can um, dispel the doubt or any doubt that what I have to say is important is to choose my words carefully and and think about what I have to say. So, for example, sometimes if you're in a room, the person who speaks the least is sometimes the most interesting person, because when they eventually speak up, people might think, oh, they rarely speak up, so let's hear what they have to say. For the most part, right? All right, so that's the first thing. A lot of confident people, they speak in a way that gives the impression that what they have to say is worth listening to. The other thing that impacts the way how I communicate is, well, let me list the superficial thing first. I used to have way more jacked up teeth, so I wore braces twice, and so I didn't want to smile too much. I'd talk like this, right? I'd talk like this and try to hide my mouth. And as I got braces each time, I got more and more confident and so on. But then I have friends who they don't have straight teeth, but they're really confident. Somehow I let it impact how I communicated. So even so, I kind of smile with one side of my face more than the other. But I'm getting over that slowly. I'm getting over that slowly. And I also find that people who have a pleasant countenance sometimes are better communicators. If you're always with a scowl on your face, at least for the stuff that I want to communicate, I'm not sure if anybody wants to take it seriously. I have found that if I have a more pleasant countenance, then the communication comes out. It's more well received. All right. So the other thing, which is less superficial, that the other thing that can help or has helped me so far with with communicating is the words I use, how I say things. So do I fumble over my words? Do I use words that are easy to understand? My sentence structure. Um, do I use filler words? That kind of thing. And it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's not easy because it's almost like it's second nature to use filler words like and like and so on and so forth. But it makes a difference. And I've noticed people who are effective communicators, they tend to sometimes speak more with with more intention or more deliberately, and perhaps even use less words, and they take their time and pause in between phrases. That way they're not forced to, or they're not relegated to using filler words. So maybe sometimes saying less makes you a better communicator. Don't have to say a whole heap. And what was the other thing I thought about? Ah, and the other thing that makes a phone that makes a better communicator is the type of eye contact that you made. I was talking to someone the other day about how you make eye contact with someone that you're speaking to, and there were two options I gave, and one was to stare right at the person in one eye, which I have found is a little weird. The other option is, well, actually another option aside from those two is to not stare at them, which is the one that I would would use. I would look everywhere else, either pretend to be preoccupied or look at their nose or look at their chin. People notice this, I find, and I've since found that the most effective way is to switch between eyes, like a triangle kind of thing. So the left eye, right eye, nose or chin, back up kind of thing. I kind of stick with now left eye, right eye kind of thing, and this is how I communicate with people. I look directly at them, but not stare at them into their soul, right? So, and to blink, cause not to stare like a mindless mannequin. And so that's related to speaking to the camera also, because if I'm speaking on camera and I'm looking off to the side and so on, it's similar to not maintaining eye contact. I guess there might be I mean there's a place for that, I think, but this is much more effective if I'm speaking on camera and I'm looking right down the barrel of the lens, not at the teleprompter, not at the screen over here, but directly at the lens. So I'm going to work on all these things. So each time I do one of these, I'm going to try to do one at least, maybe at least once a week. Try to maybe maybe mix it up with some camera stuff, um, and then hopefully I get better at this. I think I've gotten better so far because a year or so ago, I wouldn't even consider this as a comfortable setting. I would have to think about what I'm saying and rehearse and maybe write down some stuff and then fumble over my words. And maybe after 2 hours, I would have something I thought is worth editing and then uploading to YouTube. But I prefer this. I think this will help with my interactions with people on a whole. I think so. I think so. So I do have other interests on this channel. It's not just camera stuff. I love all kinds of technology, and I think my daughter asked me the other day if I had to choose between what do I love more? Is it cameras or Formula One? And I chose Formula One. Not because I don't love cameras, but that's just to show how much I like this other thing, which is all things Formula One and racing. Formula One, right? So all the drivers and so on. So those are my two passions. I don't think I'll talk much about Formula One on this channel, but camera stuff when I do live, I'll talk about that. So I don't know if this will help anybody, but I am glad that I started doing these videos because it forces me to come alive and to see myself through the lens of a camera, to see what other people are seeing. So it gives me a different perspective that I wasn't privy to if I'm just kind of hearing myself speak and assuming that it's being communicated in an effective way. And I didn't notice how much I didn't smile when I spoke, or how much my eyebrows were furred up, like I'm annoyed or pissed all the time. I didn't notice that until I started looking at recordings of myself. and I didn't notice how much I didn't stare at the camera or stare at people until I started doing this. I think it's a good thing to record yourself as you speak. If you go, and this might help with not just uh, your work environment, like if you're going to go do an interview or you're going to speak with your coworkers, or if you work in healthcare patients, or if you work in any field, right? It help you with communicating with your family, your loved ones, seeking a partner, that kind of stuff. It helps in any setting. If you're a better communicator, I think you can get you life is less stressful because not only are you able to get things off your chest, but you can win friends and influence people. This is one of my father's favorite books. And so I think that's it. I'm going to do more of this with the intention of getting better at speaking to camera. All right. I don't know if anybody's going to watch this. It doesn't matter. I'm going to watch it back to see what it sounds and looks like. All right. Take it easy.